Yeah.
Should we
Yeah.
say hello and start the episode?
Yeah. I
Hi,
think
this
we've
is episode
started.
this is episode 20, and we are talking about the best and worst advice that we've ever had. And we are
Mhm.
planning to start with the worst advice because we don't want to end on a sad note, because some of the bad advice that we
Yeah.
give ourselves that we've heard, and we don't want to end the episode there. But I do want to start with the best advice that you gave me, because we are recording back to back. and,
Mhm.
and on the last episode, the best advice I've heard from you, Sunny, was to go back to play. And because we talked about the sketchbooks, and I was so missing that so much that it just started this whole idea, and I'm as excited about the
Yay!
sketchbooks as I was when we talked about starting a podcast, or when I submitted my first study. Seriously, that's how excited I am about it.
Good.
So that was
Good.
best
Good.
advice. I just know it's gonna be good.
Yeah. I think it'll be really fun.
Yes. So let's jump in. I mean, we just we just started with a
It's
splash,
fine.
but here we go.
I think it's fine.
Let's start with the worst advice that I got, and let's see. Worst advice wasn't really advice; it was more of a comment, and I think I let it get to me. So that's why it wasn't good. It hit hard, I'm sure it
Mm.
was unintentional. It was someone I know very well, and I had mentioned, this was a few, like many years ago, that I had mentioned that I was going to start writing, that I wanted to start writing picture books. And middle grade, I think I was writing a middle grade that I have not finished. Um,
Yeah.
but
I think we all have a
yeah,
few of those.
there's quite a few there that I'm like, this is someday it'll be. But
Yeah.
um, the comment was, "Oh, everyone is writing a book nowadays," and it was said with the roll of an eye, and it hit
Yeah.
me. It hit me hard, and it made me feel like maybe I shouldn't do it, that maybe I didn't have enough authority to do it,
Mhm.
that maybe I wasn't good enough to do it, and that it wasn't special enough. It's like, everybody's like, no big deal. And it stopped me for a
Yeah.
while, and I went home and questioned if I was going to do it or not. And that's not good because it's like you're excited about it, and it put the
It
brakes
took
on it
the
for a
wind.
while. It did.
Yeah.
You
It took the
saying it.
wind out of your sails.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I always say, like, don't rain on my parade, and that's exactly what that happened.
Yeah.
It rained on my parade, and I didn't feel like supported, and it made me doubt. It really made me doubt if I should do it,
Mhm.
or worse, that would it even matter if I did it. And I'm glad I didn't let it hold me back for too long, because it has been one of the best decisions that I have made in my career, in my whole span of 40 something years, career wise, advice. Maybe it was an advice I gave myself, do it anyway, because it led to finding people that have made a huge influence in my life. It led to finding my passion, the thing I like to do, and I teach someone else to do it too. So, worst
Mhm.
advice, that it wasn't special enough, that everybody's doing it, and you know what? Who cares? Do it anyway. So that was my worst advice that I received from someone, or a comment that I received from someone else. What about you?
Yeah, and I think actually both of our worst devices, I think the similarities are they made us doubt ourselves, and as soon as you do that, it can really get to you. My worst advice, and it caused me to stop writing for years, like a long time. I was told that there's no future for you in writing fiction. And the person that told me this, well, they were not a fiction writer. They were an accomplished writer. And when I shared my work with them, they gave me a critique, but it was not they'd never written children's books. So at the time, I didn't realize like that time you should look for critiques from people who do work in the genre that you're writing in, or have experience in that area. And so I just respected them. So I just wanted their feedback. But because they didn't understand what they were reading, or the audience that it was written for, their feedback was negative, and made me feel like I wasn't good enough, or I wasn't doing the right thing, or I should just quit. That's what it felt like. And so for years I didn't write, and I thought, okay, well then I'll just focus on drawing or illustration or graphic design or other things. I'm that's not what I should be doing. But then finally I joined a critique group, and I had just started writing again. But when I joined that critique group, it was in person. Well, yeah, it was an in-person critique group. I gave myself permission to start writing again, because the people in the group, they were like, well, you're here critiquing our, listening, critiquing our stuff, but you don't have anything. Why aren't you writing?
Wow. Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm here to learn. I said, I'm just here to learn and listen. And I did. And then I was like, why am I not writing? They asked the question, and I was like, that's true. Why am I not writing? So I started writing. And then, I moved on past that and kept going. I think
sometimes bad advice is not given to hurt someone else, but sometimes it's the way we take it. Sometimes it is, like it could be like with me, like a comment that landed wrong. Maybe they didn't mean it like that, but how we allow it to fall on us, it makes a difference. Mm-hmm. And it takes a lot more effort on our part to lift it off our shoulders and go like, enough with this, moving on. The responsibility falls on us. After someone can be a jerk, but they're gone and they don't even think about it again, and we are still carrying that, and it makes a difference on what we are doing. That's on us. I think that's on us. I commend you that you gave yourself permission to move on and just say no. Why why are you not doing this if this is what you want to do?
You have to let it go. You just gotta
let's sing it. Let it go. Let's not sing it.
No, we might get copyright strikes. Start singing.
The worst advice I gave myself. That one. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm gonna be 48.
This could be like. This could probably be like 2 pages.
2 pages long. Okay, I'm gonna be 48. We're in June. We're at the end of June now. No, we're in July already.
It's July.
Next month, I'm gonna be 48 years old. This is something I did when I was 18 years old, and 30 years later, it still bugs me. I have no. And what it is, and I think I mentioned in another episode, that I made I knew I wanted to be in the arts. I didn't know what career paths they were. And I contacted an 18-year-old kid, actually got brave enough to contact an illustrator, and it was a medical illustrator. I didn't even know that was a thing. I don't even remember how I got that number, honestly. I'm sure it was,
But
the phone book.
What made you want to contact them?
I don't remember that. I don't remember how I got their number or why. Mm-hmm. I want to say that perhaps I used to take classes at night in college, because when back then I graduated high school and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went to community college and I just took the the requirements, right? Math, English, all that, until I could figure out what the heck I wanted to do. So I always took art classes. This is like, it's kind of like, I don't know why I didn't put it together back then. I was always taking art classes as a side thing. And
Mm-hmm.
but not knowing that I could, not ever allowing myself to make that choice as a career. Well, somehow,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know if it was an assignment. I don't know how I got to talk to this medical illustrator that I asked for advice, just to talk, or like to shadow them. I don't know how I got their number. I can't remember any of those details. But I do remember specifically this, that he said, "Call me on this day. I will be at my studio, and you are welcome to
Mm-hmm.
come and you can shadow me, and I'll show you how medical illustration is done, what are the steps, and all that." The day that I was supposed to
Mm-hmm.
call, I picked up the phone and I dialed the number, and fear took
Yeah.
over. And I allowed fear to take over, and I hung up. And I didn't make the phone call. Like, I started dialing, and I remember that feeling of, this is serious. This got real. Like, it got real at that moment, and it was too scary.
Yeah.
And I gave myself bad advice. I said, don't do it. Don't call. I wish I would have called. I wish I would have done it. Maybe I wouldn't have gone into medical illustration. It doesn't matter. But I think it would have made the difference of me not wasting so much time. Um,
Yeah.
I went into law. Like I said, no, I'm going to be a lawyer. And I didn't really, it was just kind of like, okay, the next thing is you go into a real career, not into this stuff. And
Yeah.
I think that was the worst advice I gave myself. And it took a long time for me to figure out, if it's scary to you, it's because it matters to you. And now
Mm-hmm.
now now I still get very scared before I do something that matters, and I do it anyway, and I do it through the fear, and I do it afraid, and I just fake it, and I go like done. And then after, I turn around and I go, I did it anyway, I did it. And so that was the worst advice I gave myself then, which was, don't make that phone call, don't do it. um yeah. So that's it. What about you? What advice have you given yourself that is bad?
Yeah, yeah, like I said, I could probably fill up like 2 pages of bad advice I give myself. But from a really young age, um, I always loved to draw. When I was younger, my mom always had paper and pencils in her purse, and I've always drawn. But even I can remember, even from super young, I always told myself, you will never be as good as. And the reason I grew up thinking that and feeling that was because I was surrounded by very talented family members, who I had a family. My mother is a really good artist and illustrator, and my grandmother was a really good, really was an accomplished writer. So I felt, I felt like, yeah, I'm not gonna cry.
Okay, I
Sorry.
stopped because we have in our notes, I put this huge says no crying, and I saw her
I'm
getting
not
a
gonna
little
cry.
misty eye, and I turned it red for her.
Yeah,
It's
I'm not. I'm
okay.
okay. I'm okay. So I grew up with those two influences who of course influenced me to, I mean, who encouraged me to be creative in those fields, in those way, in that way. But they also were always a presence in my life that made me feel like I could never accomplish that, because when you're little and you don't have your skills are not developed yet, but you see someone who's, you're constantly surrounded by someone who's this, at this level, and you're way down here. It it it, it um it really has an effect on you. And so it was always hard for me to not compare myself to them. And it wasn't until that's why I didn't go into a creative field until I was out of the military. I mean, I never even considered it until I had the GI Bill and I went back to school at the age of, I was in my 30s. I was in my mid 30s. And so it I think I had to grow up and mature and leave that feeling behind. Actually, I think I had to have enough self confidence in myself to say that, okay, I'm not gonna constantly compare myself to them. I'm my own person, so I'll find my own path, and then just focus on myself and see how, try to be the best version of me that I can be, rather than constantly look at where they are and try to be where they are. That was my worst advice to myself. But really, it cost me, yeah, like, like decades of just, I think it put me like several decades behind. I mean, I drew through, childhood, teen, but I never looked at that as something that I could do as a career, because it was just unreachable to me, because I felt like I could never be at their level.
We are going to do an episode on not comparing. I think, see, I wish there would have been someone to tell us, or like younger people or people that are just starting out, go, you cannot compare where you're at now with someone that has been doing it for many, many years. It's not fair. It's not a fair, and it's an impossible comparison. And I'm sorry that you didn't get that I like, and how would a child know that, and that you didn't get that reinforcement?
And I think I don't think it wasn't their fault. They were supportive of everything that I did. So I think it was an internal, struggle for me with my own self-doubt, that just being exposed to that made me question my own abilities. But I don't think they realized that was happening. It wasn't intentional for them. So that always makes me wonder how, like, I know this is gonna be a little off tangent, but like, especially like kids who grow up with like parents who are stars, or people who are super famous or super successful, it makes me wonder how those children, I'm not saying my family members were super successful, but I knew they were really talented in those areas. And so I always felt like I had to, I had to compete with that. So I feel like, kids who grow up with parents who have a certain level of success in an area or a field probably always feel like they're competing with their parents, or how can they ever be that, or be close to that, or
it probably happens often. And now you're saying that I think of my children, I think of my you think of
I hope
children,
I'm not doing it to my kids.
And we don't not intentional. We're not gonna get into
there we go. This is Illo Chat therapy.
This is Illo Chat therapy hour. If whoever's listening out there, it's just a lot of the stuff in life, and this I have said to people that I know, a lot of the stuff in life, you figure it out when you need it. So you cannot, it's like someone learning to drive. And you're like, how in the world am I going to drive? Look at this person driving left and right. How can they do it? Well, they didn't know how to drive at the beginning. And you cannot compare yourself. You learn the skills as you need them. Even the skills about in life, you learn them as you need them. I mean, we didn't know how to handle our finances. Even though you have a home now, you didn't know how to cook dinners, you didn't know how to handle the finances, you didn't know how to drive a car, you didn't know how to use an ATM, you didn't know how to we don't even write checks now, but write a check and do all those things. You learn when you need them, when you start using them. So if anybody ever feels like that, remember that nobody was born knowing. Everyone had to go, but you cannot compare your journey to someone's journey that is 10, 20, 30 years ahead of yours. It's just not a fair comparison. Wow. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the good advice that we got. Let's go to where this. We knew that's why we did the ugly things first. All right. Best advice I ever got. This was when I was in college, and one assignment that we had to do was to go and interview an illustrator that we admire. This is how naive and young I was. It was an assignment. I didn't even have an illustrator that I admired. Everybody in that
Yeah.
time, everyone knew Gary Kelly. He was the illustrator of the time. It was all editorial illustration. What we did, no, I wasn't going to call him. So literally, I
Yeah.
went and I looked at illustrations that I liked, and I saw one about the Civil War that was this battle scene, and the the painting was gorgeous, and I looked up who the artist was, and then I
Mm-hmm.
there was an internet then so I went ahead and googled him, if it was Google, I don't know what was back then, and he had an agent. Like, to in order to get in touch with him, you had to go through his agent. So I called the agent and I said, I'm a student, and my assignment, literally, it was all honest. I'm like, my assignment is to
Yeah.
interview an artist, and I was wondering if he would. And he called back. I left my number, and he called back, and he actually, we talked, I was like, wow, this was easy. I didn't
Yeah.
appreciate it then how I appreciate now, that this artist, and this is how naive, I don't know who he was. I can't remember his name. This was a paper
Oh.
I wrote for school, and that's it.
Yeah.
It was the end of that relationship. I think the man was probably in his 70s back then. This was 20 something years ago. He might not be
Yeah.
around anymore. And I feel bad that I didn't give it the gravity.
Yeah.
But I do remember his advice. So he put something in me that actually, 20 something years now, I'm still thinking about, and I'm using it, and I'm giving it on to someone else. And I'm sorry that I cannot credit the artist, because I don't remember who he was. But his advice was that to be successful in a career in art, you need 3 H's. And it was the hand, the heart, and the head. So I'm going to start with the head. I'm going to start with the hand. He was referring to skill. You have to work on honing your skills, so that, that only comes through practice. And he was like, your hand has to be good at what it does. You have to be good at it. You can't learn it by watching tutorials. You can't learn it by watching someone draw. You have to make a bunch of bad drawings until you get to improve your skills. That's it. It's that simple. Practice, practice, practice until you get good at what you do. Period. Simple. So you need a hand. Heart. You have to love what you do. This one impacts me now, because back then I was drawing representational. What I could see, I would draw. It was really hard for me to draw things that I wasn't seeing. I could copy.
Yeah.
You put something in front of me, I could copy I could see it and draw it like I see it.
Yeah.
It was very difficult to draw from imagination. I realize now that what was happening, and I'm already going on a tangent, I'm so sorry, but I realized that what was happening is, when you do that at the beginning, you're actually inputting information in your head. You draw enough things from life that when you are going to draw later on, you pull from that, and you are able to draw from imagination. So I was drawing still lifes. I was drawing figures that people were posing. I was drawing at the park. I was sketching animals at the zoo. Now I look for reference if I need, like for a detail. But the main thing, I can go ahead and do a sketch without having to look for specific reference, and that comes from many years of drawing from life. So, but I don't like that kind of drawing. It's not the kind of drawing that I want to do. I want to draw imagination. I want to draw, cartooning. He said that if you don't love what you do, it will show. It will show in your artwork. So at the very least, it will lack that impact of that power. It will just be a pretty illustration, a pretty drawing, but it won't have that emotion. You're not going to communicate emotion through your drawing. So it is important that your heart is also in it. And then the last one was head. You need to know the business.
Oh, that's good.
That's as artists, are we not the worst business people out there?
Yeah.
We are horrible when it comes to asking someone
Yeah.
to pay us for our skills,
Mm-hmm.
negotiating,
Knowing what you're worth.
yes,
Yeah.
knowing where your rights are, knowing we don't care about that stuff too much because we just want to draw. But you need a head as
Mm-hmm.
well to be successful in this business. Um, so even if you end up with a rep or an agent or whatever it is, you still have to know how to navigate this business and know that it is a business. It is a business doing something
Yeah.
you love, but it is a business in it. So you need the three H's to be successful: the hand, the heart, and the head. So thank you. I'm not an artist, and I am super sorry that I don't know who
Mm.
you are, and I wish I would have taken that advice with the gravity and the amazing advice that he gave me, and he took the time out of his day to actually give me that advice.
Yeah, that was really good advice.
It was really good advice. I have one more before we go into yours, if you don't mind, and this one is
Yeah, no, go ahead.
ridiculously. I found I've been watching an old TV show. So this is so you see where it comes from. It comes from anywhere. Frasier is an old TV show that I think from the 90s. Well, I never got to watch it. So I've been
Mm.
watching it in Hulu or something when I'm drawing
I
and I just
think
have
they're
stuff.
coming out. I think. I think
And
they're
they're
coming
coming out
out with
with
a
something
movie.
else?
No, for
Oh,
Frasier.
I have no idea.
Wait, you
If
keep
they are
talking.
coming out, it is literally because I've been watching all the shows to catch up on shows that I didn't get to watch when I was working outside of the home, or when my kids were little, and I didn't get to watch that much TV. Is it? Someone's looking it up.
They're gonna have a reboot. They're
You're
gonna have a
kidding!
reboot. It's
That
funny
is
that
super
you should bring it
awesome!
up
That
right
is
now, because I just
okay.
saw 5 days ago that there was a reboot coming out.
They're probably going, there
They're-
is one person out in the world looking at all of these, watching all these videos. We must bring it back
Yeah.
because it's so obscure. But that's great. I'll watch
made
it.
them want to.
In one episode, the character from the show, who's a psychiatrist in a radio station or something like that, he says, excellence does not require perfection. So now listen to that. Excellence does not require perfection. So I looked it up, and he mentioned that it was a quote by Henry James. And I'm going, who's Henry James? So then I started actually looking into this. And he was a novelist that lived in I put here 1863 to 1916. So look how long ago. But listen to it. Excellence does not require perfection. And I internalized it. I really did. It you know, when you hear something that just clicks, and I'm like, gosh, that makes sense, because sometimes
We're so
fear,
focused on being perfect.
yes, we think there's a perfect. There is no perfect. There's just perfection is not attainable. So stop trying. There is no perfection. It's not attainable. But the idea of trying to be perfect sometimes freezes us into not doing anything. It's kind of like, well, if this drawing is not going to be perfect, then I can't even do it.
I won't try.
I won't try. And that fear is what keeping you from even moving, even improving, even becoming excellent. So excellence does not require perfection. And so that is the other advice that I internalized, and I think is excellent advice.
It's good.
Oh, here, look, that's the part that we were missing. All right, on to you. Best advice you ever got.
Yeah, so mine's pretty short. But the best advice I got was from you, Olga. Draw through and check your values.
There are advice before that, but this is the only thing you could come up at the moment. But I know that there's more advice.
I mean, it affects. Yeah, I'm sure I've got a lot of good advice, but I had that advice I was taught that in school, of course, and it didn't really sink in until you pointed it out to me, and it made me relook at things and reminded myself to draw through and check my values. But like you said, I don't think you're ready to learn something. Sometimes I don't think things sink in until you're ready to hear it.
Oh,
you know
yes.
what I mean? Like, you can hear these things over and over and over again, and it can be taught to you in school, but until you're open to receiving it, it won't sink in, or you won't hear it. And the other best advice I got, I don't know who this was from. I think I've just heard it over and over and over and over again, is write or draw what you know. And
we hear that one often.
Actually, that's kind of what the advice I gave to you.
Yes, I am gonna.
But I mean, that's why I said it, is because, I've heard it so many times. I'm just like, but I'm really bad at that too. Like, and I think I'm afraid of not giving away too much of myself, but I think I'm afraid of exposing myself, of letting people see who I really am, and the things that I really struggle with, and the things that I really have experienced in my life, and putting those into stories or into art, because those are sensitive topics, and it's part of who I am. So I think there's a part of me that's afraid of showing me, the real me, and letting because what if people don't like it, then they really don't like me. You know what I mean? If they really don't like that art,
the stakes are higher.
And that's who I am, right? But I think it makes you a better artist and a better author if you do that, for sure.
That is a huge. You gave me that advice, and it changed. And maybe what you say, sometimes you get advice, but you're not ready to hear it. You did that to me. You remember? So
it was a hard topic to talk to you about, though, because I didn't want you to think I was trying to tell you to be somebody different. Like, I mean, or I don't know. And that was hard to. That was a hard conversation.
That was a hard conversation, and we cried quite a bit over that. And
yeah,
so people have no idea what we're talking about. I'm Hispanic. I am Latina. I speak Spanish. I speak with an accent. This is who I am. But I've always been very sensitive about trying not to be like that, and trying, I don't know how people will accept or perceive. We've always, especially people that come from other countries. I was born in Miami, but I lived in Ecuador for over a decade. And when I came here, I was like, you're not Hispanic enough, and you're not American enough, and it becomes this struggle. So you try to kind of whitewash yourself.
Try to blend in.
Yes, you blend in, and it took meeting you, and you telling me kind of like, why are you not yourself? Like, even like doing a podcast and things like that, and writing about the stuff that I knew. I think what you say, that write and draw what you know, it has two. I think there are two main reasons why we struggle not to do that. Is either the stakes are high, and you might not like, and that will hurt if you don't like this, who I am as a persona, everything. This is just who I am. I speak with my hands, and your experiences, and if someone doesn't receive them well, it feels like an attack to you, right? The other one that I feel, and that I often felt too, it was maybe nobody cares. Maybe it's not important enough. Like, write what you know. What do I know? Maybe what I know is not amazing enough. But what we don't get it is like every story and every story that you write matters to someone, and in every story, no matter what insignificant little thing it is, can become a beautiful story. So I'm glad that you gave me that. I'm very, very thankful for that, because you made me comfortable. And
good.
That made a huge difference in me able to get over some of those fears that were holding me back. So, see, we go back and forth. It was like the best advice that you gave me, so I told you to draw through. You told me be yourself. That's like little advice here, and you're like, I'm gonna make you come out and be into the world and be yourself. And yeah, so it was very good advice. Good therapeutic episode. And tying it back to the last episode, going back and playing, that was good advice too. I know I keep going back to the sketchbooks and all that, but my gosh, I need to play again. Maybe like it made such an impact because I really do need to play again. It's all work and no play. What is that? The Shining, that movie, all work and no play makes Johnny a dull boy. Is that even a thing?
Did they say that? I
have no idea.
Is that from The Shining?
I don't know.
I'm not
that
sure.
what he was typing, or is that a cartoon? I have no idea.
I've heard that saying though, like in a lot of different places. So yeah, no, I feel the same way. I feel like I'm not playing at all. I'm not exploring It's hard. Digital is so wonderful in so many ways. It's so convenient. It's so fast. It makes a lot of things easier, but it doesn't. There are certain things that it just doesn't give you, like the tactile feeling and of flipping through pages, of messing up and keeping those mistakes, and just so much.
It's too clean. I think.
Yeah.
It is too clean. We need some messiness.
It's a little too easy, I think, that in some ways, because you can just delete that layer.
Exactly.
And undo.
And keeping some of the mistakes underneath. And we can do that. We can do it by keeping layers and all that. But there's something. I need to go back to painting. I need to go back to the sketchbook. I need to go back to actually touching things that are papery.
And I think even if you just had messy paintings, you don't have to. We were talking in the last podcast about how, because what I was trying to say, and I know this goes back to our last podcast, but what I was trying to say is that when you play around in different mediums, that helps change your style or influences your style. I wasn't saying that working in one medium should be the same as, like, painting should be the same as digital. Even though we would love it to be that way, it doesn't have to be. Just playing around with the paints can help influence you or inspire you in your digital painting, I think, and in your and also in your creation process. I think if we go back to just messing around with, even if it's just pen and ink or pencil and paper, I think that really changes how your brain thinks, and like you said, like how your hand moves and makes you keep those messy bits and the mistakes, and helps influence your whole creation process. I think we've lost a lot of that.
You know what I noticed the other day? I went to the local library because I'm starting to meet with librarians. I always miss that R in library. Librarians. Because once the book comes out, I'll have to, go out there and hopefully do readings or signings or whatever it might be. So I was leaving my information. They asked me to go ahead and leave my information. I didn't have a card. So I had to write down my information. I know. It was a spur of the moment. I had changed my purse. I didn't have new cards. I need to make new cards because that's the thing too. It has their own information, and I'm writing and I notice how bad my handwriting has gotten. Like really bad. Like and maybe it's arthritis coming in.
I
or
type
whatever.
on the computer.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. I don't.
So.
I'm doing this. I'm doing.
Oh no! Yeah,
on my phone.
And I'm trying I'm trying to expand paper.
Yes. Yeah.
I am really doing that, and it's just oh my goodness! I almost feel like I am transferring to that area. Like when kids stopped writing in cursive, and they only started writing, and they cannot read cursive anymore. I think that's where we're at. Like we're at that point where have we forgotten how to write? Like it's hard to make a beautiful handwriting. I can do it in cursive, but actually like what do you call it when it's not cursive? The other one is like type.
Just handwriting.
Okay.
Yeah, handwrite. I
Print,
don't know.
print.
There may
I think
be
it's called
another
print.
word. Print.
Print.
Yeah, printing. Yeah.
It's very messy and it's not pretty, and I really struggle. So I'm like, no, you're not gonna be able to read this. And I'm here writing, and the lady's looking at me, and I'm like, it's been a long time since I've actually written with a pen. With a pen, I don't know what to tell you. I write with 2 fingers or with my keyboard. But believe me, I wrote a book for real. It's just.
You're like, can I text you my information?
I just forgot how to write with paper and pen.
Yeah.
Very embarrassing. So yeah, come on. I'm doing this. I'm going back to. I'm not giving up the digital. Digital is the way I'm going to continue, but I am going to go to a sketchbook, and I'm going to play, and I'm going to sketch, and I'm going to print and things and make it beautiful and messy, and I got to work my hands. I used to sculpt a lot. I used to make my cats. I haven't done that in years. And it's because I don't have the time to play anymore. So like whenever I have time to sit down and draw is because I'm doing work and I'm progressing something.
Yep. Yeah.
But I need to find some time to play. It's part. I have to use that playtime as part of my creative process to get to the finished illustration. It's imperative.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, so good advice. Well, let's end this episode. If you have good advice that you have heard, share it. Share it because you never know who you're going to help and touch with good advice. We have the community, Illo Chat community. Share it there. Maybe we'll start a post and say, hey, if you heard good advice, put it here. We can do that.
We'd love to hear it, yeah.
We're still on Instagram, so please do write on Instagram and let us know. Maybe we'll post something there. We haven't been posting lately, but we will post some stuff again. And subscribe to our newsletter, share the podcast, and share advice.
So we'd love to hear your good advice. You can leave your comments below, or you can leave them on Instagram or in our Facebook group, Illo Chat Illustration Community.
Thanks for watching. Community.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, and we hope you can subscribe, give us a like, and hit that notification button so you can get notifications when we post next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.